Please hear this video out before you petrol bomb me. Hey kids, it's your dad. Instead of using a trailer, we're going to use actual gameplay. So in order to get this video out without any copyright issues from Ubisoft, I went deep into the bowels of hell and started to play Unity co-op. And no matter which way you cut the cake, I'd rather have a death sentence in 12 systems. So back in 2014, Unity came out and we all hated it for some reason. I will have no idea why. But in 2015, Syndicate came out and we all thought it was an improvement from Unity. And in many ways, it was. But is it really better than Unity? Let's get into it, but first, cue the rogue theme. So firstly, I want to talk about replay value. Now replay value is a major point between them, and to be honest with you, Unity has a bigger replay value than Syndicate, because I played Syndicate for a couple of weeks and before you knew it I was bored and I didn't want to play it that much, and I didn't play that much. I played it to completion and I didn't want to play it again, but with Unity I keep going back and playing it, and although I don't discover anything new, I just enjoy maybe 30 minutes of Unity every week or so. You know, it's just a game that I can go back and play again and not hate, although I love to hate Unity. Unity's a buggy piece of shit and I stand by that, but yeah, I just think that Unity has more replay value than Syndicate. That's not to say that Syndicate doesn't have any replay value, so I'm going to say it, Syndicate doesn't have any replay value. Next up we have gameplay. Now, although very similar, I have to say that Syndicate's gameplay is by far superior to Unity's. Unity's was buggy, quite laggy, and everything was really not realistic, and it was a bit too far-fetched. With Syndicate, they dumbed it down a little bit, made it a bit more realistic because you couldn't jump as far. The combat was better, the frame rate was definitely better, and it was more fun to play in the world of a Syndicate, I suppose, because there was a little bit more to do. However, I would argue that Unity had a lot to do as well, and the open world in Unity was almost as good. Although the gameplay was very, very similar, I have to say that I did prefer Syndicate's, because Syndicate's was not as, you know, ridiculous as Unity's turned out to be. Parkour was more defined, though less necessary in Syndicate. Combat was better, more diverse. That was my main problem with Unity's combat, it wasn't diverse enough for me. People say it was quite clunky, I can understand why, I agree, but I never found it to be the main issue. The main issue for me was the fact that it didn't have enough variety to each weapon, and Syndicate had that variety, and so for gameplay overall, Syndicate is the superior game. Okay, aside from the point of this video, let's look at the game's main selling points. So, Assassin's Creed Unity's main selling point was, of course, the seamlessness, and Syndicate's was Jacob's bisexuality. Moving on, let's look at the most important thing for me, which is the story. Now, if you ask me, the stories are on a par with each other. Unity's story was decent, and Syndicate's story was equally as decent, none standing out over the other. Both had shitty modern day, and that factored into the story. Unity's was fairly pointless come the end, but I did like Arno as a character more than I suppose I liked Connor, at least, and Jacob and Evie were also great characters. So as far as story is concerned, I'd say that Syndicate and Unity are on a par with each other. However, if there was one factor that defined Syndicate from Unity, it would be the fact that Syndicate didn't have fucking Elise. However, in Unity, Elise died, so, you know, I suppose it sort of cancels it out a little bit. Who the fuck is Bishop anyway? As I mentioned in the story portion of the video, both games had half-arsed, shitty modern day that it would be insulting to half-arsed modern days to say that it was half-arsed. Okay, Black Flag and Rogue had half-arsed modern days. This had not-arsed modern days. Okay, let's take a look at the customization feature, which was amazing in Unity at least. So the customization in Unity was pretty good. Only downfall was that customization was not optional and it was mandatory, and you couldn't go through the game in your original robes, which was pretty sucky, and I thought it would be a good side thing, not a main thing. And in Syndicate, it's basically the same way with the weapons at least. With the outfits, it's very different, and the customization isn't actually as mandatory, but the customization in Unity was more diverse, more colours, more interesting things, more mixing and matching, and overall Unity had the better customization, even if it was a little bit more mandatory and forced upon you, which in that respect Syndicate sort of wins, because Syndicate's customization wasn't really forced upon you, unless we're talking about weapons and equipment here, in which it was fucking forced upon you. But overall, I think that the customization in Unity was much better than the customization in Syndicate. Oh, we're on to my favourite part of this video, and that is talking about the glitches. Now, I think it's more than fair to say that Unity had its fair share of embarrassingly hilarious, shitty glitches that broke the game, made it interesting, more interesting than it should have been, and also ruined cutscenes and made lag the newest craze. It also introduced popping in crowds, everything. Unity was bugged, and they introduced patches, and guess what? Those patches introduced more glitches when they were supposed to introduce fixes, which is, you know, stupid as fuck, but shit happens, you know, and stuff goes down, and we end up with a shitty, buggy port, and the PC port was 10 times worse than any console port, if you ask me. So the glitches are pretty bad. Syndicate was not as bad, but being Assassin's Creed and being Ubisoft, it wasn't perfect. The port wasn't perfect, and there were plenty of glitches, but none of which were as prominent in the game as they were in Unity, where every single turn there was another glitch, another random thing, something that wasn't meant to be there. It was glitchy as fuck. I actually enjoyed the glitches because there were so many that it's almost like they were meant to be there. So as far as stability is concerned, Syndicate is the superior game in both port and glitches. Now we're going to move on and talk about the ports of the games. So the ports of the games were both meh. Unity's was horrendous, but it didn't come as a shock to me after the release of Watch Dogs, which had a shitty PC port, the worst PC port I've ever played, and Syndicate's was mediocre for a game released in 2015, where all the PC ports are actually quite bad. However, on launch on PC, I can say that Syndicate's port was way more playable than Unity's, and therefore in this respect Syndicate is superior, though I would like to add that it is not by much. Usually I wouldn't apply this to an argument on which game is better that much, because it's only accounting for one platform, but when it comes to the port and gameplay and stability and etc. for one game and shit, it's on all platforms. That's why I'm including it, because the stability issues and the performance issues are present on every platform. Now I know why they didn't release it on Wii U. But if I'm honest, now both ports are completely fine, and I won't apply the release issues to the final argument, so therefore the past minute or so of me talking is pretty fucking irrelevant, though I have to admit the ports aren't the best that they could be on any platform, and the glitches and performance issues are still present, and therefore prominent in some respects. However, I would like to avoid that talk as much as possible, because the games are now about 10 times as playable as they were on release. Even Syndicate is more playable now, so I would like to argue that both games have now got a port that is on par with each other, and therefore they are as stable as each other, and the argument cancels itself out, so therefore I can't really make a conclusion on which one has better. But I would say that because of the launch sort of better performance, the Syndicate has the better port. But if I was to be honest with you, by comparison to Watch Dogs, the port was pretty fucking brilliant on both of them. Looking back on top AC lists that I've made, I wouldn't put them at the top or anywhere near the top either of them. Actually, both of them would be pretty close to the bottom. Not because they're bad games, because I actually like both games, coming to think about it. I mean, I like Unity because of its value that I've come to respect because of how much we hated on it. It's now got a nostalgic value within the community that we are a part of here. But also because it's not as bad as people made it out to be, and it's definitely not as bad as I made it out to be, and it's worth milking, and I enjoy milking it. and Syndicate isn't as good as I initially said it was, but that doesn't make it a bad game. Victoria Atkin and Paul Roger Amos did a great job of portraying the main protagonists, and they did a great job on the game. And honestly, if you ask me, I think that although they're at the bottom of the table, they're both decent for game standards. So therefore, I would like to say that they're both about as good as each other, but at the bottom of the table for me, because they don't really resemble Assassin's Creed at its prime and a more sort of spin-off sort of feel to them. But thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. If you disagree with me, just please don't shoot me. I already feel the gun clicking. No, just don't do it. Let's just hope that Watch Dogs 2 has a better port than the first game. So to end this video, I'd like to say thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment. Tell me what you think down below. Don't be afraid to let me know if you think differently. Don't worry, I'm not going to flame you for it, but please do respect my opinions, and I will respect yours. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment, and I'll see you all in the next one with another video. So yes, yeah.